Hello, my fellow strawmen, and welcome back to the Fields of Hay. Today I want to do something similar to my previous video on the problem of evil, in which I try to score an own goal and tear down one of the popular arguments for atheism. This time, the object of my wrath will be the problem of divine hiddenness. I realize this may seem like a strange thing to do, but I believe I have good reasons. I don't think I explained them well in the last video, but I've thought more about it, and I think there's a better way for me to put it. Ultimately, it comes down to setting some stakes on my beliefs. I'll be posting a video in the near future in which I break down why I don't believe in God, and I want to set it up as the singular tipping point for me. If someone can explain why that argument doesn't work, I want it absolutely clear that I have no fallback reasons to say a God can't exist. In weighing against this risk, I stand to benefit by preventing people from telling me that I don't believe in God because I have a hard heart, or because I don't want to find him. These videos are proof that I am willing to engage with the concepts that theists propose, and consider them honestly. When they hear my argument, they will have one fewer criticism to rely on to tear it down, and I hope that makes what I will say all the more convincing. I also didn't stress enough that I am not holding to any particular theistic description of God. I'm not worried about matching my solution to any particular verse or surah. No, I'm worried about whether some general deistic conception of God can be explained. When I say a personal God, I mean it in the broadest possible sense. If you're trying to defend a more specific belief, sorry, you're on your own. Now, with that all out of the way, the problem of divine hiddenness in essence goes like this. If a personal God existed, he would want to have relationships with individuals. There are living people who desire and actively work towards a relationship with God, and with both sides willing, the relationship should form. However, at least some of these people never claim to have an experience of God or a personal relationship with him. Therefore, a personal God does not exist. I think at the most intuitive level, the reason why I do not like this argument is that, as one of those people who has tried to have a personal relationship with God, it feels like I'd just be convincing myself that God doesn't exist because I don't know he exists, as though my lack of ability to find God is somehow proof that he isn't there. What if I just convinced myself that I searched hard enough, that I believed the right things to connect to God, but I hadn't actually lived up to whatever the standards were? What if I need to open my third eye or find my chakras first? What if I need to accept Jesus into my heart to find him, but I can't do that because I'm the kind of person he needs to have found him to accept him? But there is a more fundamental problem I see. Divine hiddenness never claimed to be able to rule out all the general concepts of God. But what it does claim is to rule out a personal God, and it is at the very step of attaching an adjective to God that the problem arises. How do I correctly anticipate how a personal God should behave to a degree of confidence that I can rule out any possibility of one's existence based entirely on my expectations not matching what I see in reality? Normally, I feel all right with drawing some conclusions about how someone would act given certain personality traits, but when that trait is attached to a God, it all goes out the window. What does it mean for a God to be personal when that God is the foundation of reality? Does he want a personal relationship with everybody, or just those that live up to some standards we aren't privy to? It's really the same problem I have with the problem of evil. Defining all possible versions of what it means for God to be good or personal and ruling out every one seems like a daunting, if not impossible, task. For instance, how do I rule out that God made himself hidden as part of a test? With no clear authority to follow, are we willing to be open-minded and consider the many possibilities? Or are we closed-minded and only blindly believe what we are taught? Or what if the standards are flipped and God only wants those who will follow him without a second thought? Maybe we need to live up to some standards to be worthy of a personal relationship, but we don't even know which way up is. The fact is, even as an atheist, I don't know how to answer these questions. The problem of hiddenness is meant to make a positive claim that some kind of God does not exist, but if it cannot pin down how such a God should behave, then it fails. Sure, it can rule out a God which doesn't want to be hidden, but what this entails is so vague, and how it interacts with the other claimed properties of God is so subjective, that I don't think it can rule out a personal God. To be clear, this does not mean that we have evidence in favor of a personal God. It just means that the door is still open, and that if we want to shut it, we need a better argument. Of course, if you're looking for inspiration to come up with one, you know what I recommend. Go read a fucking book.